I can hear you. There we go.
Okay, 1802, we'll begin the meeting. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our work session this evening, April 29th, 2020. We'll begin with the department manager's discussion. I guess I'm up first. I do have a highway personnel issue, just an issue to discuss. Wayne sent an email over to us the other day, and it had something in there about Andy wanting overtime or something. I noticed on there that he wrote something about Andy Slotman for 3 previous general crew chiefs has received an additional half-hour overtime every day to work the same start and finish as the blue-collar union employees. And I said, what's going on? It looks like the crew chiefs are getting an extra half hour because the blue-collar workers have an 8.5-hour schedule every day with a half-hour unpaid lunch. So they get 8 hours of straight time and a half hour of unpaid lunch. So they work from 7 to 3:30. And the crew chiefs, I'm wondering, because I think that's what this means, they work the same schedule, 7 to 3:30, but they follow the white-collar contract, which gets a paid half-hour lunch. So they're getting a half-hour overtime every day to eat lunch. Is that right, Fred?
What? Why are they following any contract? They're not part of the union.
That's what I'm trying to find out. Fred?
So they're with the white collar. So to align them with the blue collar working, they're in for a half hour, which is time frame wise, a half hour overtime.
So they're getting overtime to eat lunch.
Fred, we understand that, but why is the crew chiefs following any contract? They're not in a union.
They're following the because you have to align them with the same work hours. In this case, of the blue collar.
Okay, but why are, first of all, they're not in a union. I understand aligning them with the hours that the rest of the folks are working, but give them an unpaid lunch just like the blues and are getting, but they're not in. I just don't understand why. What's this aligning with the white collars? They're not in a union. So why are we aligning them with anybody? You got give them the 8.5 hours and give them an unpaid lunch like everybody else.
The white collar gets a paid lunch, Gene, a half-hour paid lunch in their contract.
The white collar, because they were part of, or not, they originally aligned with the white collar, and the white collar gets a paid lunch. So white collar
again. I understand all of that. Okay. But why are they aligning with any union? They're not in a union.
Honestly, that was set up years ago, and that's been following that to this day.
Gene? Connor? I think we're going to have to look into this. I'm not comfortable paying people. Number one, I'm not comfortable paying people to eat lunch in the first place. And number two, I'm certainly not interested in paying people time and a half to eat lunch.
Okay.
Mind you,
was that you, Connor?
No, that was me. Mind you, the two crew chiefs, I mean, yeah, they're eating their lunch, but they're also, answering phones, getting ready. So, I mean, so it's just not, like I said, that could be looked into, but that's the way it was set up years ago.
Yeah, years ago, we used to dig ditches with shovels, too.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to clarify that. Now we know where we're at, so we can look into that. Okay, Gene and Connor?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Put it on the list.
And my understanding is that's not only in highway, correct? That's also in other departments as well.
I think the only department with crew chiefs, and if I'm wrong, that's sort of corrected, is highway.
Okay.
And sewer, water,
Sewer lighting,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
And sewer, water, and
Those are
light.
the only ones. Those are the only ones that have crew chiefs.
So the sewer, water, and lighting crew chief is getting paid to eat lunch too?
Yeah. That's why I think this issue came up in the
That's
first
what we're
place.
talking about.
Right.
Yeah. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what brought up the overtime issue, because he put in for overtime and that kind of jumped out. Because we said no overtime till further notice. It had to come through the supervisor, correct? Okay. Yeah, that's right. So that's where I noticed it. All right, we'll deal with it. We'll move on. Okay, you comfortable with moving on, everybody?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
that needs to be looked at. Yeah.
Yep, we'll look into that further. John, the municipal agreement.
Yes.
Okay, I received my
Hey,
copy.
hold on one second, Pat. John, I got a question for you. This last topic and then this topic here, which is a contract, and the last topic we talked about specific individuals. Aren't these executive session issues and shouldn't only the town board and you be on the line?
Well, if we're negotiating with Hamburg with the assessors meeting their municipal agreement, that is an executive session issue.
Well, that's what we're doing. We're talking about an agreement amongst us as to what we want to, whether or not we want to keep it the way it is or propose something different.
Okay, executive session.
Okay, we'll move that into executive session. Anybody else have anything for open session?
I do, Pat.
Okay.
I'm good, Pat.
I'm all set.
I have one thing I'd like to mention. Did you guys receive the dashboard from the accountant today?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you have a chance to look through that?
Yes.
Yes.
So it looks like already we're about $1.1 million in a hole with the budget to sales tax and fees and other reductions in income. But sales tax is the big one. I've got it in front of me now. Right now we're down about $857,000 in sales tax projected, and with other things like culture of the recreation fees, state aid, fines, and building permits and fees, we're down about $1.1 million.
Right.
$1,144,932.
Thank you.
I bet Gene has it memorized. Good.
He's got it to the penny.
He did. Yeah. No, that's
I didn't want,
he's looking up for the
say
taxpayers.
in 7 cents.
So I actually had a meeting with Tom today that was separate from that, but just because it was sent out right before that, I did discuss this with Tom. I think the important number from that is that if we don't receive any sort of federal aid, which I think is an up in the air question right now, and everything else continues as normal, that taxpayers will be looking at, I think it's a 6.8% tax hike just for next year. So having some sort of public input about what needs to happen next, I think is
Well, Connor, I spoke with Tom also, but I'd have to double check this with him. But that 6.8 represents what is being caused because of the virus. It doesn't
Right.
represent other things that we have to pay for, like Green Lake and the activity center and so on. So it's a much bigger number than that.
correct.
Yeah,
6.8% due to the virus.
the red flag's up. you know, we have to be careful in these times. Let's hope we get some funding from the federal government, but that's not guaranteed. So I just wanted to mention that because I got that report, that dashboard today, and I wanted to make sure you guys had a chance to see that, and you both did, and went through it a little more thorough than I had the opportunity to. Connor had a discussion with the accountant. It seems like Gene had it down to the 07 cents. So, so we all know where we stand. And they're going to give us that. Huh?
I said the 07 cents was just joking.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad we have the 7 cents. We might need it.
I can contribute it. I'm here for you.
Okay. But that's good. So then, does anybody else have anything else? I think Ramey mentioned he did.
I've got, just for Joe and John, I had sent out an updated version of the peddlers and food truck ordinance for you to look at. And if you go through it, but for each one of you, there's a section that you really need to look at just to make sure that it's the way that we want it. And what I'd like to do is have the town board at the May 1st meeting set a public hearing, I'm sorry, the May 4th meeting, set a public hearing for 2 weeks out so we can get this going.
So I did look at the look it over, Remy, and at section 8 that you referred to, I think it's good for now. Eventually, I would like to get it where we can send these peddlers for background checks through Identical.
Okay.
But
Okay, as long as you're comfortable with it now, we can always go back and change it.
okay,
Okay. John, I can talk to you Friday about this if you're in the office.
I'll be in the office, and that would be fine. Today I was not in the office, so I didn't have the chance to do any
Yeah.
cross-reference.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll talk to you Friday. This will
Okay.
allow us to get the food trucks going, but the board has to make a decision if you're going to allow food trucks. I mean, I don't know how you keep the 6 feet social distancing with food trucks, with people coming up to buy stuff and hanging around. But that's a board decision, and you guys can let me know how you want to handle that.
Well, Ramey, I can comment now, and unless somebody comes up with an idea on how you handle that, I just don't think we have food trucks until the governor lifts the 6 feet distance. Because I don't know how you handle it.
Okay.
Well, the ice cream places are open. And
Right.
I think most citizens are aware by now that we're supposed to do the social distancing 6 feet. And I think that if they put signs up, I would think, I mean, let's see what other communities are doing in the city of Buffalo. They have a lot of food trucks down there on, what is it, Thursday, Larkin Square food truck Thursday or something. So let's see what they do. But I think if they had a big sign up, social distancing is a must and people must remain 6 feet from each other. And people, I mean, I understand where you're going, Gene, but I think people should start to enforce it themselves.
No, Pat, what I'm saying is unless someone comes up with an idea and you have an idea, so, maybe the food truck owner is responsible for one of these, plywood A-frame type signs that, that you see it on both sides and there's a chain in between the two of them and it just looks like an A when you set it down on the ground and maybe something like that. But all I'm saying is, yeah, keep the ideas coming, but right now with no ideas, there's a difference between an ice cream stand and a food truck in your neighborhood. Your neighborhood, you haven't seen your neighbors for months, and so you're going to sit there and you're going to chit-chat. And an ice cream stand, you usually don't run into a whole lot of people that you know. So to me, there's a difference, but I'm all ears for ideas.
Well, Gene, you must not go to the ice cream stand enough, but I do.
Connor, tell us about it.
No, I'm just.
Good for you, Connor.
I actually.
You're walking up to the stand, right, Connor?
Oh,
Get your exercise walking up to it.
That's your,
Yes, that's been my exercise during the social distance. But no, I actually haven't been this year. But my thought, John, this is a question for you, and this is probably not something to be answered in a public session. But my question would be is, what if the town were to permit this activity, what potential risks or liability could it expose itself to? So my thought process is, if the town permits this activity, it's up to these individuals to continue following the social distancing rules laid out by the governor. If they don't, what could happen for the town? That's what I'd be interested in learning before having any sort of a form of.
Well, let me say this. If, for instance, there was a food truck that didn't self-monitor in terms of the social distancing, and someone got sick or, God forbid, died, first of all, the food truck would be sued, and then secondly, the town would be sued for not having a monitor on site.
Right, and the other question I had is I've actually never. So I mean, this is in reference to one specific request. I've never been to this gathering of food trucks at this park. Are the trucks actually on town property? Are they on the road? Because that's another way in which it's distinguishable from the ice cream scenario. For example, does anyone know where the trucks are actually parked?
If you're talking about Pawtucket, I believe that's in a town pocket park.
Got it. Okay, that's also good to know.
So my understanding, though, is that we can't process any permits for food trucks until at least May 15th, given the governor's directive.
In terms of social distancing, Ramey?
No, just in terms of everything's supposed to be closed down. The town hall's closed down. So we're not issuing stuff like that right now. That's my understanding. If it's different, let me know.
Well, I guess there are two issues here. One is the food truck, which is a pickup facility.
Right.
But the other issue is whether or not the town is allowed to issue permits, right?
Correct.
And if I wanted to marry or die, are you open for business, Ramey?
Well, we by state law, we have to process death certificates within 72 hours. We also got another directive, a suggestion that any of the virus deaths we process in 24 hours. So we have, my staff comes in for Monday through Friday, but then the days normally we weren't covered, they're coming in for an hour just to process the death certificates. Although I do have to tell you, we have one day where I think there were 10 or 12. It took longer than an hour to do it. Kind of a depressing process.
How about other permits, dog licenses, marriage certificates, that sort of thing?
We're not doing marriage certificates at all. Dog licenses, people mail them in depending on what type of dog and the age of the dog they're registering, but if they mail it in with proof of their rabies vaccination, we can process those. And we have been taking money in, something that we desperately need in town government, from the building inspector's office and that, but there's been virtually no face-to-face communication as far as people coming in our office, which is how we want it. And but I just need, I'm perfectly comfortable not doing anything with the food trucks till after the 15th, but we need to sort out what we think our liability and everything is, so I know what the board wants done.
In a word, our liability is absolute. It's 1-800 sue anyone for anything, and these are crazy times.
People are crazy and times are tough.
Yep.
Okay, we good with that one?
Not yet. Bramy, could you say again what you needed for next week's board meeting from us?
Yeah, well, what I'd like is some direction on what you want to do with the permitting for the food trucks. Now, this ordinance will lay out the inspection process that and will comply with New York State, the new New York State guidelines. So the building department will be all set as far as being able to inspect the food trucks before they go out. I just need to know if the board is comfortable after the 15th with me issuing permits for people to have food trucks to show up at these pocket parks. We have an issue with Target right now that we're in the midst of trying to resolve, where they've had Chiavettas and then they've had Coyote Cafe come in right into the parking lot. But I just need a little bit of direction from the board on if we're going to do this or not do it.
So Ramey,
Sure.
The way I gather it, there's two issues. One is the public hearing on a new ordinance on how these folks are permitted and so on. But then the second issue is, regardless of the public hearing, is whether or not we want these folks to operate during this virus situation.
Correct. We need to do the code change just to be in compliance with the new New York State laws regarding inspections and to clean up our code so it more reflects what we're doing. That you're right. That is a separate issue. The other issue is, do we want to have food trucks in town during this period?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So we'll have to provide two answers then. Well, not answers. One thing we'll have to do is definitely put it on the agenda for a public hearing, but then also look at our notes and make a decision on whether or not we're even going to permit them through the next weeks, several months. Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, our next meeting is May 6th. The one after that is what, the 20th? So we'll get more directive from the governor by then, the 15th, and then we can kind of decide or make a decision and have a resolution on the 20th. Would that work, or was that when the public hearing would be?
Yeah, that's when the public hearing would be, on the 20th.
Okay.
That would be for the code change adoption. You don't necessarily need a public hearing for if we're going to not do permits for a period of time. That's just basically the board directing me. We're not doing food permits till, pick a date, June 1st, July 1st, or not till 2021. But we do need to do the code thing and get our code up to snuff.
Okay.
That's all I have. So I don't think you need me, but I think you need my wife, right?
Correct.
Okay, let me get her and I'll step away. Thanks, guys.
Anybody have anything else, or else I'll move to executive session.
Not me.
All right.
Okay, I make a motion. We go.
So you're going around the table?
Okay, well, yeah, Chief said he just had things for executive, correct, Chief?
Correct.
Wayne's not here. Brad?
Yeah, we're continuing, obviously, with highway picking up brush. We got the leaf, in front of that, the leaf truck is working, continuing road sweeping, and we're doing, catching up on any plow damage for areas. Now, the brush contractor is all set. He will be starting this coming Friday, May 1st, and he will be starting in Zone 5 and then working his way counterclockwise around the towns in the zone. So he'll be kicking it off this coming Friday.
All right. Thank you, Fred. Fred, as long as you were talking there, I got a question for you. Last meeting, we talked about your overtime and the guys that were throwing in 2-3 hours where it kind of looked like they were just trying to finish something up instead of doing it the next day. Were you able to look into that?
I did. That happened we went out salting. That was Thursday, April 16th. There was 4 crews involved.
No, Fred, I don't mean to, Fred, I don't mean to interrupt, but yes, you explained that to us last time. But then there was additional overtime, of people that were, a few hours here, a few hours there, and it didn't have anything to do with salting. It had to do with, extending a workday, possibly finishing something up that really wasn't a safety issue. So why didn't they leave it until the next day?
No, from what I looked on the payroll, basically the salting operation, the only other overtime was for the crew chiefs, which totaled, I think it was 32 hours.
I think he means the
bulk
extra
of it-
overtime. I think he means the extra overtime is for the lunch eating time.
Right.
What do they get, 2.5 hours a week
Yeah, two and a half. Yes.
at overtime? So
Half hours,
it's
yeah.
3.75.
Okay,
Okay, Gene,
thanks, Fred.
do you have anything
Thanks,
else,
Fred.
Gene?
No, I'm good, thank you.
How about Connor
All set.
and John Bailey?
I'm good.
Steve, you're not on the call, correct? Okay, so we're done with that. At this time, I move we go into executive session for the following. HR issue and Parks and Grounds crew chief to discuss. We have to discuss with the attorney the intermunicipal agreement between the town of Orchard Park and the town of Hamburg regarding the assessor's contract. Our police chief has a personnel issue, a contractual issue, and police investigations. And I have to discuss a waste management contract with our waste management company and a town property issue. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded by Gene. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're in executive session.